The movie begins in Metroburg City, and we see that people are scared because meteors are falling. But suddenly we see that the Thunderman family has arrived, and they will be in charge of solving the problem. We begin to see that they are using their powers to destroy the meteorites, and that they succeed in destroying them very easily. Then the people thank the heroes for their work, because they saved the city from being destroyed. We go to the Thunderman family's house, and they are excited for their game night, because they haven't had time to be able to rest, and they want a night to celebrate as a family. But suddenly we see the alarm go off, and they are informed of a crime that was going on in the city, where we can see that there was a villain robbing the city bank, and that the family does not want to go out because it was their night out. The assistant informs them that another team is available, and they change their mind because they don't trust them. Then the family begins to prepare to start with the mission, and they decide to split up to fight the villain. But suddenly we see that the other team arrives, and they say that they will take care of the problem. So the family says they won't allow it, and we see that by accident, Nora hits her brother, which ends up causing the donut ad to fall, and the villain to be stopped by the other team of heroes. The family starts to discuss that they failed the mission, and then the president arrives to fire their team, because they broke the rule of not hitting the heroes, and they have to pack up to leave the base. In the next morning, they return to their old home, and say that they had been working as heroes for 3 years. The brothers are happy that they will have a normal life, and we see that the twins were confused about what to do with their lives. While in the lair was Dr. Colossus, and we see that he is surprised by the return of his friend. Max begins to tell him that they had been replaced, and that he will use his powers to get money. Then the brothers are on their way to school, and they don't know how to behave like normal students. The principal realizes they were the Thunderman siblings, and says he'll keep an eye on them so they don't cause trouble. Nora starts bragging that they have superpowers, and says she was nervous about getting new friends, while her sister meets up with her friend Cherry, and is offered the opportunity to work at the restaurant. Then her brother Max arrives along with his group of friends, and he is invited back to be part of the band. We go to the prison, and see that the villains were playing a board game, but suddenly we see that they receive a visit from the new team of heroes, and that they were actually the villains' sons. They begin to say that they defeated the Thundermans, and that they do not intend to liberate them to continue with their plans. While in the city, the twins are disappointed by the new life they have, so they decide that they will go back to being heroes, and defeat the villains with their tree suits, to which their family says it was a bad idea, and they no longer want to be heroes so they can have a normal life, because as leaders they were too demanding, and that they were not taken in consideration to make decisions. While Dr. Colossus remembered the other heroes and realizes that they were a team of villains, but suddenly we see that Phoebe figured it out too, and they plan to defeat them to get their jobs back. We go to the school and see that the siblings were still using their powers to impress people, while the villains were investigating the base to look for the secret object, and we see the heroes arrive so they can take them down. But suddenly we see that they had been discovered, and they end up capturing them to be their prisoners. The villains begin to say that they are looking for a plant that was taken care of by the heroes, because the seeds have special abilities, and that it is the true source of the origin of the powers. Then they are taken to the villains' lair, and say they will go to the city to wipe out their family. The machine is activated to start the torture, and they are being bothered with their greatest fears. While in the house, they were talking about their new lives and realized that their siblings were not there. But suddenly we see that the villains have arrived, and they show the recording where they tortured their sons. So the father decides that he would give them the plant, and they use the seed to create new villains. We return to the cage and see that the siblings were in trouble because of the mercury. Max starts to say that he wanted to be famous to be like her, because he always thought she was the best in the family. To which she tells him that she was also trying hard because she thought the same, and that they were wrong for not listening to their family. Then they use their power to set off some kind of explosive, and they manage to escape before they get trapped, which ends up causing the emergency system to activate and start the countdown to explode the lair. While the family manages to realize that they forgot a seed and that they can use it to create new heroes, so they decide to gather their group of friends and give them seeds to get powers. Then they use their powers to attack the dome of the city, and they manage to make some kind of exit. We go to the base, and the Thunderman family manages to get there in time to save them from the explosion. The brothers apologize for not telling the truth, and that they didn't listen to opinions when they worked as a team, while the villains were preparing to use the seeds and release their parents to show off their victory. But suddenly we see that the heroes had arrived, and say that they are not going to allow them to use the seeds. We start to see that they are fighting against the villain team, and end up being defeated very easily. So they say that they haven't lost yet, and they manage to defeat them with their teamwork. But suddenly we see that they activated the machine, and that Chloe teleports to be able to finish with the machine. Then they celebrate that they destroyed the machine and stopped the villains from conquering the world. We return to the house and see that the president meets with the family so they can be heroes again. While outside the house, their friends had arrived, and the family freezes them to continue with their celebration. As a final scene, Dr. Colossus is called by an unknown person and say that he will be hired for a new mission. This is how the movie ends. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment on what more movies you would like to see on the channel.